How's everybody doing? I'm watching, this is on YouTube. It's, I believe, on the history of the Unexplained Zone channel. This is something that was on the History channel, but I don't really remember watching it on History, but it's got the History's logo on it, but it's In Search of the Greys and Their Alien Agenda, Season 1, Episode 2. Okay, I don't know what. Okay, I did Act 5. Yeah, I showed you that yesterday, I think. I'm remembering. I think it was yesterday. I went on here. I think I'm gonna just go ahead and I'm gonna go back to 1. Game settings, adventure. Go back to Act 1. We'll go up to Torment 2. There was a, I mean, seriously, if you guys are not on Threads, I do not have a gaming identity on there, and I'm kind of on the fence. I think I might do it after they come out with a PC version, because it sounds like it's in the works, and then that gives me time to either get a better working laptop and have that down here, and I doubt if that's going to happen. Or move the computer that I did get. It wasn't new, it was refurbished, and I got it for a pretty... The funny thing is it won't run DaVinci. There's something with the processor or the graphics card. DaVinci, I can run DaVinci, but it won't do video. And it usually doesn't even like to do that, but I like anytime I mess with it, it will not, but it runs games. Everything else that and I don't do that much on the computer, but everything else I try to do on it, like it'll run, I think it'll run Minecraft. It's, for whatever reason, DaVinci has a fucking problem with it, which is probably, the fact that there's a problem with either the the processor or the graphics card. That's probably why I got it at such a pretty good deal. I don't care because it works so much better than the one, and so far, everything I've tried to do on it works just fine. So, I don't know. I guess, I'm not sure, I can't remember, I'm not sure if I actually tried running any games on it. Okay, I gotta kill just about another 100 of these. But,
it is not ready yet. The storm breaks. Not enough spirit.
some of these I might have seen. I'm not 100% sure, but some of these I may have seen on Pluto's Paranormal channel, because I don't remember watching these, but either that or the one guy that's on it has been in other stuff. But I really wish I knew when these things were done. I want to say these were done maybe like back in the 90s or something like that, because this I think was the predecessor for Ancient Aliens, if it was done on History Channel. And Ancient Aliens has got almost, not quite, but almost 20 seasons out, I think. So, you know, Ancient Aliens would definitely go back to, like, the era of 911, maybe. So this would have had to been, because I don't think it was on when Ancient Aliens was on. I think it had already run its course by then.
Feel the wrath of Yitar.
But I kind of, I had like two things today that I kind of reached out on. One of them was this, if I got the guy's name right, he's like a Democratic economist. I shouldn't even say that. He's a good economist.
Ha! A vicious strike.
Oh, Jesus Christ, these fucking Prager University fucking propaganda shit. It's like you might be able to brainwash the people of fucking Florida, but I don't need to see that fucking bullshit.
These woods are ominous and old, even older than my time.
Oh, I might have finally killed enough of them. I gotta double check.
Your flaws are revealed. Your strength fails. I need to go back.
Okay, they're talking about Area 51, or not Area 51, but Roswell. Every time I see that picture of that Jesse Marcel being ordered to hold that balloon wreckage and looking up like, you know, I mean, I'm not kidding you. Anybody that's being honest is going to look at that and go, that's one of those you got to be fucking kidding me looks. But he was ordered to do it because they were desperate to cover up what he said he saw. You know, whoever told the truth would be my opinion. They wanted to get the shit back in the horse. But Robert Wright, he's I don't like using the label for him because economics is something that is not political. I would say he is an accurate, fact-based economist. He's not one of these ones that'll tell you cutting taxes raises revenue, and you know, it's basically like for these people to do it. Now it's a little more complex than I'm gonna make it look. If you actually talk to good economists, what they'll tell you is that, you know, if you tax everybody at like 90%, it's gonna have an impact on the economy. And what it is, there's definitely a sweet spot to taxing. At least that's a theory on it, and I think there's some validity to it. But the thing is, we've never been guilty of that in my lifetime. And you know, in like a decade or two. Basically, we've never been guilty of that since the Great Depression was over. What they have, and maybe not even before, but I don't know that much history before it, and I don't want to speak to it. But if you look at what we did was the first, you know, so many dollars of income is taxed at X amount. It's what they call a progressive tax. And then what they do is the next group, and I'm just gonna, these are not, I don't think, the exact numbers, but hypothetically, the first $50,000 you make is going to be taxed at say like 5 or 10%. And again, these numbers are not accurate. Even when I was healthy, I didn't walk around with this stuff in my head. I wish I could blame this on what's wrong with me and what was done to me, but I'm not trying to claim that. I'm not an economist, and there are very good reasons why I'm not an economist, because I don't have the ability to remember. Even when I was younger, I just did not have the memory for this kind of bullshit. And ooh, and okay, now this appears to be the Betty and Barney Hill thing they're talking about now. I'm just looking for something to pass the time on this. I'm gonna actually try and find something to watch before my Minecraft stream so I can talk about it intelligently.
I need spirit.
But I might even save the other thing I was gonna do for that. The other thing I was gonna talk about here, because I can actually go on a little bit about this. But and then like the 50 to 100,000, that would be taxed at say like 10 or 15%. And and that would be the next thing. That'd be the next tranche that's taxed. So like everybody, and it's not unfair to the rich, which is another, false claim made by people on the right. Everybody that makes, say, the first batch, the first $50,000 or whatever it is, they're all taxed the same. And then everybody that makes the second batch, the 50 to 100,000, they're all taxed the same. Well, then you have like a third category, like everything you make from like $100,000 to say $250,000. That's taxed at say 15 or 20%. And everybody that makes that much is taxed that way. And so what they do is, as you make more money, everybody, you're taxed a little bit more so they can pay for roads and schools and the military, and we should be doing health care. We should be doing like food stamps for, there's one fact of life that we got as Americans we have to come to grips with. We either have to force companies that are going to work, that are going to employ people, and I don't care if they employ 5 people or 20 people. We have to force them to either provide good living wages, good living health care, a pension, or we got to tax them enough so that the government can do it. This whole idea where, life is sacred from conception, and then fuck you, you're on your own the minute you're born. This is one, it's not the Christian lifestyle that the people who push it claim it is, and it's not sustainable for our society. It's not good. That's why since Republicans have been in and pushing this shit, middle class has started to disappear, infrastructure has started to disappear. Things are just getting worse and worse. Ever since the Great Depression, we have proof after proof after proof after proof that the Republican economy bullshit just doesn't work. And the world we live in now, you have like the Walton families that own Walmart and Sam's Club and all them. They sit there and rake in the money. There's 8 members of the family. They're all in the, there's 4 or 5 of the members. They're in the wealthiest category. They're in the top 5 or top 10, and for having money. And yet every year around Christmas or Thanksgiving, you hear about the people at Walmart, their employees, the people that are not on the top of the list for having money. they're fucking donating money for the people who work there who can't afford to provide Thanksgiving for their families or food at Christmas or presents at Christmas for their kids because these rich fuckers at the top are not paying them enough to fucking live. And this is the thing. If they don't want to pay them, and same as for our military too. There's so many of our military people that qualify for food stamps and other shit because we are busy giving tax cuts to the rich that we're not paying our soldiers enough. They at least have reasonable. They don't have great. To me, they should have the same level of health care that Congress has. Everybody in this country should have. If we can't afford to give the congressional health care to every American citizen, then we can't afford to give it to the Congress. They should either get what we get or we should get what they get. And that is, you'll never, once they're in there, they're in the club. Fuck you. That's like that Paul Ryan, that guy that was a nominee for vice president and speaker of the fucking House from the GOP. This is a guy growing up. His dad died. And he got government assistance. His family did, him and his mom. They got government assistance so that he could basically be taken care of because his dad wasn't there to pay the bills anymore.
Can just conjure up a demon
and you would think... You would honestly think if he was a decent person and not a fucking horrible piece of shit, you would think that when he got into office, and I don't know, maybe you can blame his mom for this. Maybe you can blame his mom for raising him like this. But you would think after that when he got into government, he would be working to ensure that everybody could get the help that he got. No. When he got in there, he didn't even want people like him to get the help. He didn't want people who suffered like he did and lost a family member. He didn't even want to give them the help. Fuck you, I got mine. Clarence Thomas is a Supreme Court justice, the same thing. He basically got to where he is because of affirmative action. You look at what a corrupt piece of shit he is. It was bad enough when he was getting nominated and you found out he was like a sexual pervert, harassing the women that worked for him. But I think the jury's in on the fact that Anita Hill was telling the truth. There was a guy that wrote a book, and I don't think I don't see him around anymore. I don't remember names, but I remember faces usually, and I don't remember seeing him. He was one of those gay guys that thought the Republicans loved him. One of those basically, if you're gay or if you're a minority and you're a Republican, it's kind of like a chicken, supporting Colonel Sanders. It really is. And they did, as long as he was doing what they wanted him. He was one of their good gay people, and they were okay with it. Well, he interviewed people. He interviewed people to. Oh, hi there, Patches. He interviewed people to attack like Hillary Clinton and Anita Hill. Well, it was after he had done the Anita Hill book, ripping on her, attacking her, that he interviewed some of those people again, I think for Hillary, and they were right-wing people. Well, he interviewed all these people that basically were character references for Clarence Thomas. And according to him, and this is what I'm basing my opinion on, and that's what I'm doing. I'm sharing my opinion with you. He interviewed these people, and when he interviewed them later, more shit had come out. This is after he got into the Supreme Court. The damage was already done. Oh, I might have to go cover up a turd. Hang on. In between, like when I get done with this, before I do Minecraft, I will try to remember to clean the litter box. I usually do that on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Oh my God. Usually Trouble's the one that, oof, Patches. Better name that one. You should be proud of it. But, holy balls. And, but no,
This fight is over.
But he interviewed, and there was one of those women, she got a hold of him, and she's like, oh my God, he really did it, didn't he? You know, but you look at what he's done now, he's a real corrupt piece of shit. And, you know, I'm sorry, I don't see how you can feel otherwise, and I honestly think it's a good thing. You know, and this is the problem with it, you've got good and bad people in any group, so if you're going to have something like affirmative action to help people, well, you're going to end up helping shitty people, just like, you know, good people. You're going to have to take the good with the bad. You know, just like if you got a union, there used to be this thing, and if you were someone, and I might be exaggerating a little bit, but there were people that, you know, every year when my plant was open, at least every year I worked, so it was like close to 10 years, every year they would do an article, at least one, local paper, local fish wrap, and they would basically, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not much, but they would sit there and run these editorials, some shitbag would write in, and
Help me! I'm trapped in here.
they would write in, and they would basically act like the fucking hallways of General Motors were paved with gold, and we fucking shit on gold-plated toilets and all this. And they'd do a thing where they would talk about all the drunk people. Like there was one guy, I think he was like a failed management person. And he usually, I think he was running for office, but every time he got a chance, he would just fucking, but he made it sound like we were all fucking drunks. You know, and just fucking, you know, kegs of beer in our fucking cars and all this other bullshit. Well, the thing is, if you've ever worked a factory,
1263 Yano Kyrgyzstani.
if you've ever worked a factory,
I was certain I was gonna die in there.
and I want to add this, like I got hired on a Monday. This would be back in 2000. I got hired on a Monday. Went through 2 days of orientation, and then that first Wednesday I was working. That was my first day out on the floor. And then next week on Wednesday, and I think when I got hired, you had new people coming out every Wednesday and every Friday to the floor, because what they do is Monday, Tuesday they'd have an orientation group. Boom, you're out on the floor on Wednesday. Then Thursday, Friday, you had another orientation group. Boom, you were out on the floor on Friday. And then I can't remember how long I was there. I don't think it was more than a couple months. And then they got it down to where they had like one orientation a week. And that second week I was working, so like 1 week after I had come out, so it'd be the second Wednesday I was working, that we had that another group in. We had new people that came out Wednesday, and I want to say it was like maybe 15, 20 minutes, maybe a half an hour. The guy working next to me, brand new. He goes, does this happen all the time? And I looked, and there were all these cops there with guns and fucking drug sniffing dogs. And I mean, and it was like a small army coming through there. And what it was ATF and our local police, and I think there were police from Illinois. Because what had happened was there was drugs involved at General Motors. It made the news. Bob and Tom did a fucking I don't remember if it was Bob and Tom or one of their guests, but somebody had done a song about the drug raid on General Motors. That was back then. And I told him, I go, I really don't know. This is my second week here, so I didn't know. But what had happened was, I guess they had somebody who just it was somebody that was doing drugs, and they owed the drug dealer money, and they weren't paying. They absolutely were not paying. And so the drug dealers, they jumped them right outside the fucking door at work on company property. That was what I heard. I did not see it because I think all this happened before I started working there. But that's what my understanding was. Well, then that's when the union, they're like, hey, look, you know, if these guys want to fuck up the drug dealers, if the drug dealers want to fuck up the drug addicts, that's one thing, but you can't be doing it here. You know, and that was just bad thinking by the drug addicts. But they did. They just jumped them. I mean, it sounds like they jumped them right outside the door, not in the parking lot, but I mean right at the fucking building. And it just tells you what a bang-up job General Motors security did, because I guess they just stood by and watched it happen. And so they and then what they found was the drugs were in my state. They were in Illinois. Because it crossed state borders, the DEA was involved. And my understanding is anybody that was convicted was going to lose their job and lose all their pension. The union would not fight to get them hired back in. And there was a whole bunch of shit. And, you know, it is what it is. And, you know, one of the few times I guess the union leadership did the right thing. You know, but you know this guy, he was a management guy that couldn't cut it. You know, and to be fair, you know, I don't know as much about here because I wasn't as aware. I didn't work with management when I was up here. I didn't have enough seniority to get those kind of jobs. But from what I heard, there were people in management that were doing drugs, even after that. Because like there was a guy we worked with. He it's a long story, and I don't want to give too many details because I don't know what the statute of limitations on some of this shit is. But and I don't really know that much but there was a guy. Even back then, I didn't know enough to really tell anybody. I knew more about what was happening to me down there, and I told the FBI, and as far as I know, they didn't arrest anybody for it. But there were these parties that happened after work, and I don't think the guy that threw them was involved. But there were people there, I guess, and because like a buddy of mine, he mentioned something about it, because he would go, he would go, and I made a comment the one time because he was mentioning that he went, and I said, yeah, I go, I've heard about those. I go, I don't really think, I go, I might stop by, and he's like, you don't want to go. And I go, really? And he goes, well, you go, and he goes, yeah, he goes, I won't be going again. And I go, well, what happened? And he's like, well, he goes, I've gone to those before, and he goes, this one here, I really was not tired, because he would usually go for a couple hours, he'd drink and stuff, and that's what he knew. You know, that's what he knew out of this. And then there was somebody that was there that needed a ride home, so he took him home. Or took her home or whatever, and then he was going to go back. And when he got back, it was, you know, probably like 2, 3, you know, because it was late when he took her home. And again, I don't know any more than what I'm telling. I know what I was told, so I'm not reading anything extra into this. But he took her home, and then he went back, and it was, you know, I'm guessing it was maybe a half an hour, 40 minutes, you know, like 15, 20 minutes to get to her house, 15, 20 minutes to get back. And he said a lot of people had left. Well, when he got there was a whole bunch of people snorting a plate of Coke. And they go, oh, we thought everybody was leaving. He goes, oh, well, I just thought I'd come back. And they go, oh, you can come in. It's okay. And then they go, do you want some? And he goes, no. He goes, I'm just going to use the bathroom, and then I'll head out. And his whole thing was, if something ever happened at GM, because he was skilled for a certain job, and it would have been, it might not have been as good as what we had, but it would have been close, you know. And so if something ever happened, he wanted that option to go back. Well, it was a skilled job, you know, the kind of job where they're definitely going to do a background check, and getting busted, even if he was not doing drugs, getting busted at a coke party was not something he wanted on his rap sheet in case he ever needed to go back to that kind of work again. Because it was, and again, I don't want to give too many specifics, but because again, I don't know what the statute of limitations on shit is, but he, you know, he just didn't want it, you know, because he wasn't, you know, he was like me. He was kind of he'd drink and he'd do other stuff, but he just didn't want to do anything illegal that you could maybe get a record for. And I asked him, I go, was it just union people or was management? He goes, oh, there were some management people there. And he goes, if I told you who was there, union and manager, he goes, if I told you who was there, he goes, you'd be a little fucking shocked. I go, union or management? He goes, fucking both. And I'm like, oh shit. And so I don't know. But you know, so, yeah, but that's the thing. You got that shit. I don't care where you go. I was shooting. I was like doing. I don't want to get into specifics, but I had a extracurricular hobby that I did. It was one of those. It was something that you did outside of work, and it was for adults and all that. And it was, everything was above board. And I got invited to a party, and one of the people there, and I never knew it. And that was the last time, I might have been the last time I was invited to, but that was the last time I went. The one guy that I knew from this thing, who and again, I still ran into the guy. I liked him. I think we still did our thing together, you know, for the hobby thing. But we were at this party, and he was doing something, you know, again, that, you know, wasn't really kosher. And then he was all paranoid, and he's sitting there, he goes, oh, hey, do you ever do this? And I go, no. I go, I've never done it. And he just, he was doing it. And he's like, yeah, he goes, you really, and he kept looking out the window. He's like, you don't want to, you really don't want to do it. It's pretty bad. And he goes, I really wished I hadn't gotten started on it. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's sitting there telling me this. It's got to be some bad shit. If he's sitting there telling me this, you know, that's not good. That's really not good.
Long I have labored to master the dark arts. Now I finally reap the rewards. For Magda has acknowledged me. She promised me a special task that will bring endless glory to the Great One. I can hardly rest until she reveals it on the morrow.
I grow weak. That ability is not yet recharged.
If I keep having that happen, I'm gonna bail and go back to the lower difficulty. But I had 3 close calls with my character there. I don't think it was the level, it's just that they had like 18 fucking dudes that spawned those fucking laser beams or whatever, and that's too much. That to me, you shouldn't have that at this difficulty level. But no, every year they would do this thing where he would, you know, but that's some of the shit that I was at least somewhat aware of when I worked there. But
I am
the
returning to town.
but this guy would do, he would, every chance he got, he'd do an editorial. Hey, I worked at GM, and everybody was fucking drunk, and they're tripping over fucking bottles coming in, and it. When I worked there, now there was more than one. I'm sure of it. But like in my area, okay, there was a guy who sold beer out of his trunk on breaks and lunches. And I comment, I never went. And he was a good guy. I don't mean this in a bad way. He was kind of an asshole. Like, once he got his mind made up, it didn't matter if he was right or wrong. He wasn't an overly bright person. So he wasn't necessarily always right. He wasn't always wrong either. But once he got his mind made up, and I'm a little bit like this too. I'm not usually as wrong as this guy has been, but once my mind's made up, you're probably not going to change me of it. And
I can't carry anymore.
But somebody that knew him was like, well, yeah, I think there's more drinks sold out of that trunk than some bars in this town every night. And but he made it sound like, oh, we were all fucking drunks, and that just wasn't true. And I think if you worked at a company where they had 100 employees or 50 employees, you'd have about the same percentage of people that were drinking at work or drunk at work. I would say it was within, would be my guess. It was within that tolerance. Well, when you're talking about a place that's got like, 3,000 or 4,000 people working for it, it's kind of like when these Republicans, they act like Chicago and New York are just such death traps because of how many people get killed. Well, yeah, but it's actually a lower percentage per capita than like some southern cities where they got like 50 or 100 people. There's a lot more gun violence down there. It's just you don't have the body count. So the numbers are smaller. And that's the way it was with us. It's like, yeah, we might have had, on any given night, we might have had 200 people that were fucking drinking and drunk and getting, which sounds like a lot. And I'm not even sure we had that many every night. But I mean, let's just say there were 200 people that were getting blind fucking drunk at work every night. Well, in a lot of the places you've probably worked at, it'd be like 2 people. 2 or 3 people might be more than what we had percentage-wise. And that's just the way it was, And but that Robert Wright, he's been covering some of the stuff on the UAW negotiations. And
The gods strike through me.
one of the things, he was the first one I heard talk about it. So that means that I would say less than 4 years ago is when I came home. Would have been about 4 years ago. That it would have been this Christmas or whatever. Because in the middle of that, I found out that they were actually negotiating their contract. They had gone out, like after I had reported to the FBI what I am pretty sure had happened to me.
I don't have enough spirit.
That's when I found out that they were on strike. I didn't know about it then. I was starting to come out of a funk, whatever had happened to me. And I was sitting there like not that long ago, and I'm just like, God, I can't remember how many years, but that would have been I basically came home, so that means 4 years ago, earlier this year, 4 years ago, is when I lost my job. It would have been 4 years ago this year. And the only reason I know that is because it was a contract negotiation year. And those are, and I might be wrong, but I believe those are every 4 years. And
The spider prepares himself a meal.
And but he was talking about how the UAW, and they've got their strike authorization. And this is something, if you've never worked a union shop, or if they don't run it like the UAW does, which maybe they don't, I'm not an expert on this. What they do is when they enter these negotiations, and I think locally, like we always referred to it as a 5-day letter, but it's basically the strike day authorization. What they do is when they start these, I think they give, because they should start the negotiation in September. If I'm not, I think that's when the contract runs out. September, October is when the contract runs out. And what they do is, the first thing they do is they get the strike authorization. And I think they do it every year, but they at least do it every year that they think it's a possibility they may have to strike. And so they've got that. They now have their strike authorization. So if management gets them to the point where they think it's good to strike, they're just going to drop the fucking hammer. And I think it's basically a 5-day notification. I think that's why it's called a 5-day letter. But they give it to them, and then in 5 days everybody's on strike. So that gives management 5 more days to offer something that the union can accept and take to us to vote. I don't even think we have to vote on it and pass it, but they just have to give them something that they can bring to us or continue in good faith. And then they avert that, but it lets them know that unless things change, if they stay on that glide path, or if they don't make any more progress, that the intention is to strike within 5 days. And so he let them know, he let us know that one of the things the UAW is asking for is like a 40% bump in worker pay. And I gotta be honest with you, I don't expect they're gonna get that. I'm being completely honest, and I am not an expert on this shit, but I don't think they're gonna get that. But I worked there for close to 20 years. It was just short of 20 years when whatever happened to me happened and I lost my health. But that's how you negotiate. You ask for more. And like when we were down there, the shop chairman we had that was negotiating our local, he actually fucking did it. There was something he did. This is when they were doing that launch team. What they were doing is they were going to a new model, and on that new model, when I got down there, any of the 4-door trucks, they did not take the rear door. They only took the front doors off and put them on the door line. The stuff that went on the rear doors was built as it went through the main thing. Well, that was one of the changes they were doing with the new model. They were going to take all 4 doors off and send them over to the door line, and then they would put them all back on like they did the front door in trim 4. And so they had to massively extend the door line, and they went from having 4 teams to 10 teams, and that's what they were doing. And they had a launch team. It was basically for all the new teams that were being created. And these people were there, and then they had these people, because they were going to have to hire a whole bunch of people. You went from 4 teams to 10 teams. You're talking like 6 times 5. Like at least another 30 bodies. At least another. And that's if you had small teams. Teams could be between. I had seen teams between like 3 and 4 and 8. 8 was supposed to be the cutoff. If you needed more than 8 people, then you had to have 2 teams. So like if you got the 9, you'd have a team with 5 and a team with 4 or something like that. That was the way it was supposed to be set up. And so and you had these people. They were on what they called the launch team, and they basically covered all the new jobs, all the major changes, had people representing it, and they had their own little office. And what they did, these people, I don't think gave up their jobs. They temporarily gave up their jobs, and then they were filled with like summer help or people who, you know, were extra, and then they covered this shit. Well, management was gung-ho about team rotation. And, you know, again, I can see why management wanted it, but at least in, maybe not everything, maybe not 100%, but some of the stuff that the union was telling them was legit. Like, look, if you want to do team rotation, one, you got to have standardized work, and you're not anywhere close to standardized work. And the other problem you got is you had so many people that we worked with that were on light duty because they had all these jobs that hurt people. They you know, the people they had running ergonomics, and like at least one of those guys was a fucking joke. The guy on day shift, he was buddy with somebody made the comment. He was on day shift, so I didn't deal with him that much. But I got on a job when I got out of the team leader group because of the bullshit that they were trying to do to me. I just gave it up. I'm like, oh shit, you know, it's a little extra money, but it ain't worth putting up with this fucking shit. And well, the job I ended up on, if you were on it long enough, you were gonna get hurt. And I'm a pretty big guy, you know, and I did what I could to maximize my time and health there until I could get a better job. Well, the girl that replaced me, she ended up having her fucking shoulder roached out. She had to go out, and they were gonna have to basically work on her shoulder because it was all fucked up. And the funny thing for me is when I was on it, and the shift leader in question was a pretty good person. If you could accurately explain to her what the issue was, and you could get her to understand why it was a problem, she'd do everything she could to fix it. There was another shift leader like that. I can't remember what his name was. Steve or Steven or something like that. He was another one. If you could explain, he was, you know, both of them they were both pretty smart. They were both probably smarter than me. But seriously, both of them, if you could explain to them what you needed, they were really good at, you know, and they would. You could see it, whether they succeeded or not. They'd work their ass off to get it for you. Both of them were good, but some of the stuff that Steven did, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I figured even if he busted his ass, it would take weeks or months. And he came up, I think, later the same day or the next day, and he gave me because there was something that we used to have, and you could order it as a tool. Well, I went to go order it, and that was something that they had no longer, they weren't carrying anymore. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me, you know? And I mentioned it to him. I go, yeah, this was something they used to have, but I go, since nobody was using it, I mean, it's not that we didn't need it, it's just we didn't need any, and we had all these new teams that were coming out, and stuff comes up missing. Stuff gets broken, you know? What we needed were these snap-on pry bars, or there was some kind of a pry bar, and then you could bend it and alter it, and then we could use it in a specialized manner. I think they called it a rectum wrecker or whatever. But it was just basically a pry bar. And you put it in there. Well, somebody in their infinite wisdom, since nobody was ordering, they go, oh, we don't need this anymore. No. And if you had people that knew how to fucking do work, this would have never happened. They had somebody in that job that had probably never touched a fucking tool in their life.
I need to go back.
Making these decisions. Well, I figured it'd be weeks or months. He came back, I think it was, I might be wrong, but I think it was the same fucking day. He gave me a piece of paper. He goes, hey, I went to the store and got a handful of those. He goes, they should be in the system by tomorrow. So he goes, there's only like 5 or 6. And he goes, there'll be more later, but he goes, there's going to be 5 or 6 of them in there now. He goes, you should be the only one that has that number. So he goes, get over there and order what you need. He goes, if you need more than 5, you're going to have to wait on it. or let me know if it's real bad. But he goes, you can at least get up to 5 of them, and you'll have them now. And I go, shit, I only need like 2. It was either 2. I think I needed 1 for me, 1 for the guy working next to me, and then I was gonna have an extra one made. So he got that done for us, and I'm just like, holy shit, you know. But they were good. But I'm trying to think here. This is actually not a bad day, but I got a little lightheaded. But no, but that was the thing. Well, they wanted to do this shit where they rotated stuff, and again, where I was at on third shift. This is when I first became a team leader. They started this team rotation thing, and this was not my team. This was Andy's team, and I can't remember if I was just helping him out or if I was covering his team. But they did this rotation, and they had this one older lady. I wish I could remember her name, but she was a really nice person. She was an older lady, and you could tell by the way she walked. She had I don't know if it was her legs or her back, but you could tell by the way she walked. You didn't notice so much if she was standing still, but when she was walking, you could tell she had health issues. Unless you're an idiot, you could tell that she had problems. This wasn't somebody like that one girl years later that was faking a broken foot. This wasn't something where she was making something up. She literally had these problems. And they rotated her. And she was trying to do that job, and I was walking by. She goes, "Hey, Casey, come here." And I'm like, "Okay." And I got over there, and she goes, "I got restrictions." And I go, I told her, I go, "If you're lying to me," I go, "I'll probably never trust you again." But I go, "If you tell me," and I go, "if you make a mistake, you make a mistake." But I go, "If you tell me what your restrictions are," I go, "if there's anything I can do to help you out," I go, "I will try." And she told me she wasn't supposed to work above her shoulders. Like, she wasn't supposed to have to lift her arms above her, and it was for her back and her neck. And she was clearly doing that. And I go to her, I go, "Do you mind if I talk to the group leader about that?" Was our boss. Deb was pretty good. And I go, "Do you mind if I talk to our group leader about this?" I go, because I go, "I don't even know if I can help you. I have no idea what I'm going to run into, but I go, I'm not going to be able to do anything for you unless I can talk to people." She goes, "You can talk to anybody you need to about this if you're trying to help." I go, "Fair enough." So I went up to Deb and I told her, I go, "Hey Deb," I go, this is Andy's team, not mine." But I go, like I said, I can't remember if I was covering it or if I was just helping him out, because if he wasn't there, he either gone for a cigarette or he was out doing a repair. And I told her, I go, according to Sherry, that's what her name was, I go, according to Sherry, she's got restrictions. And I go, what she's doing over there is violating her restrictions. And I go, and I repeated everything Sherry had told me. I go, "I don't know if it's true." I go, "I don't know if that's something you can look up." I go, "I don't know if you want to get medical out here." But I go, that's what she's telling me. And I go, she's violating her work restrictions over there trying to learn that job. And her eyes, you could tell she cared. She was a pretty good boss. And she goes, "Get her back on her job now, if you don't mind." I go, "No," I can do that. I went down, I go, Deb said you just go back to your job. So there was a lot of this team rotation stuff they just couldn't do. Because, you had Sherry on that team, and they had specifically placed her on that job because it met her restrictions. I might be wrong. But and this is based, if I'm understanding the medical shit, which is possibly not true, and if she was telling me the truth. And I don't think she was lying to me. I don't know, but I don't think she was lying to me. But if my understanding of what she told me and if it was true, I don't think there's a job on that team other than the one she was assigned to that she could do. The other thing you don't understand, that this is a potentially good thing. Again, there are shitbags milking the system, but for the most part, it's a good thing. For at least 50%, if not 80% of the people, maybe overall, maybe not in one plant or another, it might be bigger, but overall, there's probably like 80-90% of the people that are benefiting from this. And what they do is when you get these medical restrictions,
Well done. You have finished.
every job you do, they have
I cannot carry more.
they have the people from medical come out. And what they do is they go over every job, and they come out and they review. They come out and they watch the job being done. They look over the books. This is a really good thing. And then what they do is they determine that if that job meets your medical restriction. And then it is sometimes a process, because what they have to do is, the more seniority you got, the more challenging it is. Because what they do is they look at every job with a lower seniority. So it might not even be your department. You could go anywhere in the plant. But what they do is they start out and they look. Now, this was my plant. They would look at every job and they would start with the lowest seniority ones and they would work their way up. And then what they would do is the lowest seniority job that met your restrictions, you'd bump that person, and then they would go to a different job and you'd get their job. When I was done, and I don't know that this wasn't necessarily a better way to do it. Down there in Indiana, what they would do is they wouldn't bump anybody off their job. At least that's my understanding of it. I had enough seniority where I was in no danger of getting bumped off for somebody with light duty or whatever. But they wouldn't bump anybody. But every time a job came open, if there was any question about it, what they would do is they'd have the medical people come out and they'd look it over. And then they would start at the highest seniority person that had restrictions, and they would work their way down. And the highest seniority person that could do that job, boom, that was their new job. That was the way they did it. And there might have been a few extra things here and there on that, but that was a way they did it. And so she honestly couldn't do that job. She really couldn't.
Is too great.
And luckily, the committee man did not have to get involved. Nobody had to go 10 rounds on the mat trying to get, because we had somebody good in management. I explained it to her. Took her about 30 seconds. She goes, if you don't mind, you go get her off of that job and you get her back on her job. I go, I will do that for you. She made a quick decision. If it had been my team, I would have probably switched them back and then gone and talked to her. But it's not my team. I didn't want to overstep, especially because I think it was wrong. But I don't think, I didn't think she was going to get hurt in the next 5 or 10 minutes. And I figured I could at least go see what I could do there, but that was one of the rare occasions where you had somebody good in management, and shit got taken care of. There was another case. Now we had the day shift supervisor staying over, and I didn't like getting taken advantage of. If somebody didn't want to do their job, I figured that was their problem, not mine, But the one guy on my team, and this is a guy, he could not afford to take off work. He had a really sick kid. He showed up almost every day. I think at one point I think he worked through his vacations and then he got the extra pay, at least until they quit doing that. And then he started taking his vacations, but every chance he had to make a little bit more money, he was on it, And he showed me his phone. He goes, I don't know what you want to do about that. Because he knew I didn't like going online to cover people who didn't want to do their job, and I saw it. And I can't remember. His kid was sick, and I don't want to get into the details. His kid had one of those. His kid had one of those diseases
carrying
where
too
like
much.
1% of the population had it. At one point, they were trying to give his. Ooh. Let's see if we got. Where we at? Okay, here's another one. I got the key. You can see over there that it's green checked. I did not get a key for over here. No keystones. To me, because you don't always have that, but to me, if you've got that check mark, you should have a keystone. Maybe I'm wrong, but we got this now. Here's another one. I don't know if I'm gonna actually get the chest, but I'm actually having a. It's been a while, but I'm actually having a relatively decent day today. And
Shall we head out?
but no, his kid. Something had happened with his kid. I mean, again, it's their business. I don't want to spread it, but it was bad. And like I said, this is a guy that was not a fucking ambulance, you know. If this was someone who always wanted to go to medical, always had some kind of a fucking excuse, I probably would have been like, well, you know, I can put in a committee call for you. You know, I can get the foreman to come talk to you, but, you know, hey, that's between you and him. You know, and you know, it is what it is, but this was a guy that was not a fuck-off artist.
I don't have enough spirit.
And so I go, can I show this to the group leader? And again, this was not my group leader. He was basically the day shift guy that stood over. And I went and showed it to him. And I go, I don't know what you can do about this, but I go, you got to get him out of here. His kid was sick. And I mean, it was like, I told him, I go, I don't really want to get into too much of his history, but I go, his kid has problems. I go, it's like, you know, I go, I don't know how bad this is, but I go, you need to get him out of here. And I go, this is a guy that never takes off. He comes in sick. He's got to work. And I go, he's basically asking to go. I go, oh my God, I don't give a shit if you guys stick me on the line or not. I go, you got to get him the fuck out. And he goes, give me a couple minutes. He goes, I think I got somebody I can. He goes, I don't know if you'll have to train him or not, but he goes, I'm pretty sure I got somebody I can send down there. Let me go find out. And I told him, I go, like I said, I go, don't take too long. I go, and if you don't care, I go, I'll send him now. Like, I'll start doing his job. Like, I'll start getting bathroom breaks done, and then I'll let him go as soon as that would be fine. But he goes, I'll probably have somebody down there before you get done doing your bathroom breaks. And he was a pretty decent guy. I was another one. It's like, oh my God, you know, hey, it's rare. It's nice, but it's rare when you've got management working with you instead of working against you. But I kind of reached out to Robert Reich when he tweeted on Threads today. I go, hey, look, I go, you know, you did a thing where you talked about, you know, the UAW asking like for 40% more in wages for its contracted workers. And you explained why. You made a comment that, you know, the people at the top had given themselves a 40% increase. And they, you know, you're basically talking about, you know, hey, they just want the same thing management's. I don't think the people down at the bottom, but like your CEOs, they are already making millions of dollars. And they gave themselves a 40% increase. So the union's like, fuck it, we're going to go on strike. You can give us a 40% increase. And I don't think that's unreasonable.
I need
you know, I really don't think that's unreasonable. If they can't afford to give it to the workers, then they shouldn't have given it to the people at the top. And I told them, I go, you know, I am seeing where they're talking about other things that the union is asking for. And I told them, I go, I am pretty sure I was drugged or poisoned for being a whistleblower when I was there, bringing up quality issues and that. And I go, in spite of that history, I go, people like you, I think, really need to use their expertise to go into, like, I think what you did here was great. I go, the first I heard about this was when you did a thing talking about them wanting a 40% increase, and then talking about it was because the people at the top were giving themselves a 40% increase. And I go, the things I'm hearing about is that
I don't have enough spirit. This fight is over.
I go, they want a 32-hour work week. They want to get paid overtime if they have to work more than 32 hours. And I go, I would like you to use your expertise to talk about all the major things that the UAW is asking for and why they're not unreasonable. I go, when I was working, I go, before my health went bad and I couldn't work anymore, I go, we were hearing stuff, and I go, my understanding, because this was not our plant, but I go, my understanding is there were other plants that had agreed to a 6-day letter or a 6-day work week. So I go, you had management working them 6 days a week.
Not enough spirit.
And I go, like with us, and on a lot of them, they were working 6-day weeks, and then they were expected to come in on Sundays. And I go, where my plant was, we didn't agree to a 6-day letter to work every Saturday, but I go, they were working us 2 out of 3 Saturdays. And I go, a lot of us had come from plants where we only worked 4 days a week. We had worked 4 10-hour days. And so, like, it was, I don't think I mentioned this, but that was the thing, like a lot of us, before we had ended up in Indiana, we were, and that's the way it was when I got there. And then when they went to 3 shifts, they got rid of it. And, but when we went there, we came from a plant that had worked 4 10-hour days. And then when it was busy, you worked a Friday. So you always had a 2-day weekend. Well, down there, we were getting a 1-day weekend 2 out of 3 weeks near the end there. And I go, maybe you should explain that, because they don't want to create more plants. They're working all these 3-shift plants now. They could open a couple more plants. They could diversify that workforce a little bit. But I go, they don't want to do that because it might cost, and it'd take a few pennies out of the jar. They'd make a little bit less money. Maybe they'd only be able to give their CEOs like a 38% bump instead of a 40% bump. But I go, I really wish people like you would use their expertise to talk about the other stuff. Not just the one item, but talk about the other stuff they're asking for, and explain to them why it's kind of important that they get this stuff, and the fact that it will trickle down to other people. Because this is the thing a lot of people don't realize is we have overtime because of unions. We have paid vacations because of unions. If you've ever worked a job where you had paid health care, it's because of unions. Unions got it, and so then a lot of these companies that didn't want a union had to start giving that stuff up. You take these auto companies that are over here, they're non-union, they're Toyota and all these other ones. They've got pretty close benefits and pay to what the union shops do, because if they don't, like if they didn't want to pay them top dollar, if they didn't want to pay them close to a living wage, if they didn't want to offer them health care, they might unionize. So what these companies do when they come over here is, like Toyota and Nissan and a lot of them, what they do is they offer close. What they do is they offer just enough that it isn't financially worthwhile to them to strike and get a union. And if our unions were gone, that would be gone. They wouldn't give a shit. There's a lot of other industries, and here's the thing, the American people need to get their elected officials to come to the realization we either need to increase Social Security. We fuck the fucking Republicans. We need a national campaign where they're saying, look, we either need to lower the retirement age to 55, and we need to increase the benefits. Or we got to force these companies, all of them, to offer some kind of a pension or to pay into a pension. Because Social Security isn't enough as it is. It's a joke. You know, I when I was still working, I saw these people that were retired at Kroger's down there at the pharmacy trying to figure out whether they wanted to buy food or their medicine that month, or whether they wanted to pay their taxes or their heating bill or their insurance that month, because Medicare and Social Security just were not cutting it. Not even fucking close. Ralph Nader used to say, if you want to fix Social Security, put Congress on it. When these guys, he goes, you want to fix Medicare and Social Security, when these people retire from Congress, stick them on Medicare. Stick them on Social Security. That's what they're going to get. And he said, if you did that, he goes, you would see them paying out, you know, $100,000 a year and all this. And again, this goes with what I said about healthcare. You either need to bring us up to what Congress gets, or you need to bring them down to us. If we, I don't know what it is, but I don't know, but let's just say we are paying a retired congressman $3,000 a week or $2,000 a week, whatever that would work out. That'd be, if you were getting $2,000 a week, it'd be a little over $100,000 a year, I think. And if we can afford to pay them that, then we should be able to pay retirees that. And if we can't afford to pay retirees that, then we can't afford to pay congressmen that. I'm sorry. They shouldn't be able. We shouldn't be turning all these congressmen into fucking like royal society, where they consider themselves like Manchin. You know, that thing down there where he was standing on his fucking yacht, pissing on the fucking peasants and stuff in boats, asking for a little fucking scrap of food, and he stood up there and it was like some villain in a fucking novel. Oh, yeah, I don't know what you guys want. You know, I don't understand this. And he tried to fucking run one of them over with his car. This is shit that needs to end. It really needs to fucking end. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and end this stream. I might go and get that fucking key. I just want to see if I can get a key here.
I need spirit. I must wait to use that ability.
From the pages of Solan, exalted poet of Kyrgyzstan, my love rises out of the oasis like a willow.
That
Let me
ability
nourish
is not
her
yet
like
recharged.
a pool of cool water. Let me wind myself up her curves and hollows like fingers of ivy, and climb her shaded branches to taste of her fruit.
I must wait to use that ability.
Returning to town.
Now they're talking about no keystone available. I went and got the Keystone Guardian and no keystone. I gotta look that up. That might not be a glitch. Maybe it's only a chance to get it. But this happens a lot, and then every now and then I get one. Oh well, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. What I'll do is, oh shit. Okay, I was playing over the weekend on my non-streaming character, and I think I gained a couple of these. Let's see, what do we got here? Okay.
That is too expensive.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. Yesterday was a halfway decent today. Today has been pretty good. I hope everybody out there has a really good day. I absolutely do. Peace out and take care.